Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is my wrap-up video for week 2 of Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I can't believe December is going by so fast. We're already halfway through it. And I've read some great books this week, so I'm just going to dive right into it. The first few are the last ones that I read for the Christie's Missing Readathon and also for Christie Fest. So I'm going to mention these books, but I am going to talk about them in more detail in my upcoming Christie's Missing Readathon wrap-up video, which I am going to combine with my Agatha Christie read-through project because I chose books primarily for that readathon that fit with my wrap-up project, so that worked really well. So I read The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding, which is a Sherlock Holmes, Hercule Poirot short story. Isn't that a great picture? These editions are great. These are the Heron Books edition. They've got these lovely end papers. Okay, so The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding. I read this for, like I said, for the Christie's Missing Readathon, and this is the short story I read for Christie Fest, and we had a great time discussing this. It was the last one of the year, so we did a video call instead of a voice chat, and we all dressed up as characters from Agatha Christie, and it was just a lot of fun. I also really loved the foreword that Agatha Christie wrote to this collection. The collection is The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding and Other Stories, and in it she wrote this: "The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding is an indulgence of my own, since it recalls to me very pleasurably the Christmases of my youth. After my father's death, my mother and I always spent Christmas at my brother-in-law's family in the north of England, and what superb Christmases they were for a child to remember. Abney Hall had everything. A garden boasted a waterfall, a stream, and a tunnel under the drive. The Christmas fair was of gargantuan proportions. I was a skinny child, appearing delicate, but actually of robust health and perpetually hungry. The boys of the family and I used to vie with each other as to who could eat most on Christmas Day. Oyster soup and turbot went down without undue zest. Then came roast turkey, boiled turkey, and an enormous sirloin of beef. The boys and I had 2 helpings of all 3. We then had plum pudding, mince pies, trifle, and every kind of dessert. During the afternoon we ate chocolate solidly. We neither felt nor were sick. How lovely to be 11 years old and greedy. What a day of delight, from stockings in bed in the morning, church and all the Christmas hymns, Christmas dinner, presents, and the final lighting of the Christmas tree. And how deep my gratitude to the kind and hospitable hostess who must have worked so hard to make Christmas Day a wonderful memory to me still in my old age. So let me dedicate this book to the memory of Abney Hall, its kindness and its hospitality, and a happy Christmas to all who read this book. Agatha Christie." I loved that. That was fantastic. So in The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding, Poirot is sent to a home for Christmas because there was a jewel that went missing, and I forgot what the home is called in here, the house. King's Lacey. And yeah, it was a wonderful short story. I really did enjoy it a lot. Okay, I also read 450 from Paddington by Agatha Christie. This was my one for the prompt of reading a book with your team's detective, and I was Team Marple, so 450 from Paddington was perfect. It's also set at Christmas, around Christmas, so it was great to read at this time of year. A wonderful Miss Marple, and I'll talk more about it in my upcoming video. And then I also read Ordeal by Innocence, which is a standalone, and I had never read this one before. I had seen a Miss Marple adaptation. With the new Marples, they added Marple into the story, and so it was interesting to see the differences reading the book myself, and I will talk more about that in the upcoming video. I also read Death of Jezebel by Christianna Brand. This was for the prompt of reading a Golden Age author, and this book was from 1949, and it's a recent purchase of mine, and I was really excited to get to it. So again, I'm going to talk about this in the Christie's Missing Readathon wrap-up video, so watch for that coming very soon. Okay, what else did I read for Cloak and Dagger Christmas? I read Mrs. Hudson and the Spirit's Curse by Martin Davies. This is the first in his Mrs. Hudson and Holmes mystery series. This was a reread for me, but I wanted to go back to the beginning of this series because I've read a couple of them, but there are now a few more out, and I wanted to start again because it was a few years ago that I read this. This is told in the first person by a character called Flotsam or Flotty, and she is 14 years old when the primary events of the story take place. And she is found on the streets and becomes a maid with Mrs. Hudson. And then in this first book, Mrs. Hudson and Flotty are working in the house where Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson take rooms. And so I loved all of the connections to Sherlock Holmes, but what I loved about this is that Flotsy and Mrs. Hudson were the primary investigators, and I thought it was just a lot of fun. What if Baker Street's most gifted resident wasn't called Sherlock Holmes? An evil stalks London, blown in from the tropics. Stories of cursed giant rats and malign spirits haunt the garrets of Limehouse. A group of merchants are one by one dying. It was really good. I really enjoyed that one. There's a character in it called A.J. Raffles, and I loved that because he is a real character created by E.W. Hornung, who is Arthur Conan Doyle's brother-in-law. And so I loved that he was in there, that connection was in there. I also noticed and was super excited the phrase cloak and dagger was actually used in this book. So how perfect is that I read it during Cloak and Dagger Christmas. Really great, and I am definitely continuing with that series. Okay, I read a short story because I thought it was set at Christmas, but as I got into it, I realized it was actually set at Halloween, but it was just a short story, so I read it anyway, and it was called Masked Ball at Broxley Manor. It is a prequel to the Her Royal Spyness series, and it is set in 1929, and it was just a fun, lighthearted prequel, classic Georgie hijinks, and I really liked that as well. Okay, I also read, and I did this as a buddy read with Carolyn from Carolyn's Reading Ramblings, my fantastic co-host, one of my fantastic co-hosts for Cloak and Dagger Christmas, and she's not done yet, but I read Murder on the Christmas Express by Alexandra Benedict. This came out this year, 2022, and it's actually, I did it as a buddy read, but it's on my list. I put it as a wild card read. I read it as an ebook from my library. 18 passengers, 7 stops, 1 killer. Now look at this cover, because this is going to be key for some of the things I want to say about this book. So this cover and that tagline totally led me to believe that it was going to be a lighthearted, cozy, Agatha Christie-esque type of mystery. And that is totally what I was expecting going into this book. It also had, at the beginning, the author had a list of words, and they were stories that involved trains. And the idea was to look for their anagrams throughout the story. So I never caught any of them. I'm not really great at that, but that's a really fun aspect to add to the thing. And at the end of the book, there was a pub-style quiz that you could do as well. So all of these things led me to believe that it was going to be a lighthearted, cozy Christmas mystery about, you know, people stuck on a train. And there were moments of levity and slightly coziness, but it was actually very heavy. The topics in it were very, very heavy. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to rate this book, what I felt about it, and I wasn't able to articulate what I was feeling. And so I was reading some of the reviews on Goodreads, and one of the reviewers nailed it. And he said that the book was tonally confused. And that is it. That is it exactly. Because it's got this cozy, festive cover. It's got, you know, you assumed that it was going to be this Christie-esque mystery. And there are lighthearted comments about train food, and there's train-related puns. But it is actually a dark story with really difficult topics. And so yeah, he was exactly right in calling it tonally confused. And that's why I ended up being actually kind of disappointed in this mystery. There was also a lot of bad language, which I'm not a fan of. And there was also a lot of build-up before we got to the first murder. The first murder was like over 100 pages into the story. And it was too sad and real for me. I prefer old-fashioned puzzle mysteries, which is what I thought I was getting because of the cover and that cozy kind of feel to it, and that Agatha Christie-esque, you know, feel made you think that it was going to be a puzzle mystery. So in the end, I was actually really disappointed with this one, and I thought that the cover was very misleading. And so if you, like, it's very, very confusing for a reader to have expectations going into a story and then have those expectations like completely blown apart, basically. So yeah, this was one, unfortunately, I was very disappointed in that one. Okay. Moving on, I read Peril in Paris by Rhys Bowen. This is the newest in the Royal Spinous series. It can count for Partridge in a Pear Tree because it's got an alliterative title. And even though I'm holding up a book from the library, I did actually read this. It's also a NetGalley read for me. I'm a little bit late, but I got it read for NetGalley. So this is the latest Georgie lady, what am I trying to say? Royal Spinous. And in this one, Georgie and Darcy go to Paris for a bit of a vacation, and you know, a lot of mishaps, hijinks, and murder ensues. And I really liked it. It was just a great continuation in the series. I loved that a lot of characters from previous books appear in this one as well, even though they're in Paris. And I just really enjoyed it. I'm always excited whenever a new Royal Spinous book comes out, and this one did not disappoint. I really enjoyed it. Okay, and then I also completed the prompt for 5 gold rings, foil on the cover. Haha, I'm just kidding. Erin and I were totally cracking jokes that it would have been perfect if there were actually foils war books, but they're not. So this definitely has foil on the cover. Look, he's right there. Okay, that's me being totally nerdy. But the book that I did read with foil on the cover is Could You Survive a Midsomer by Simon Brew. This is a Midsomer Murders interactive novel. I've done it before and I did okay, but not great, so I wanted to try it again. And wow, I did worse this time, so I definitely have to do it again. At the back, once you complete the story, there are performance reviews about how you did, and this is how I did. Case remains unsolved and little chance of that changing. A real disappointment. After some initial promise, the detective's first case remains open, with little obvious leads and no realistic chance of it being solved. Recommended course of action. Assign traffic duty. Get them away from future murder investigations. Okay, I cannot let that stand. I have to do this again and do better. That was awful. Okay, I also completed a few of the activity prompts. So I did 7 swans of swimming. I had a bath, I had a bubble bath, and I read one of my Cloak and Dagger, I started one of my Cloak and Dagger Christmas books. It's the one for 10 Lords of Leaping, a story with nobility in it. I've started A Resolution at Midnight by Shelley Noble. So 7 swans of swimming, that is done. And 11 pipers piping. Listen to cozy / Christmas music while reading. And I had Chris Body's December album playing when I did my recent reading sprints. And so we listened to Christmas music while we read. It was really fun. I really enjoyed doing those reading sprints. So I actually did 4 more prompts this week. I completed 5 gold rings, read a book with foil on the cover, 7 swans of swimming, have a soak in the bath, 8 dingoes dancing, wild card read. I read Murder on the Christmas Express, and 11 pipers piping. Listen to cozy Christmas music while reading. So I am so excited because I am now at the level of police inspector. Although my latest outing with this might tend to disagree with that statement. So I have to do that one again, but I am very excited that I have reached police inspector, and I fully intend to continue and get to the Sherlock Holmes level. So I've had a really great week with Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I've done some fun activities, and I've read some great books, and I hope that you have too. Let me know in the comment section what you've been reading this week for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I would love to know. Have you read any of these books? I would love to talk about them with you, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.